Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first ever Ask a Human Q&A session by the Law Practice Management Committee. This is our first time doing everything, and this is going to be a relatively huge webinar. So please bear with us if anything goes wrong. We don't anticipate any issues, but it's not a tech presentation without tech issues. So uh, we're anticipating that maybe something will happen. We're going to be doing a few of these over the coming year. We'll send out some notifications around timing of all of that, but we're going to be trying to get to as many of your questions as we possibly can. All right,
All
and now
right.
we're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves. How about Patrick? You go ahead and kick us off.
Thanks, Alex. And thanks, everyone, for being here. I want to just especially thank the State Bar of Texas and the Law Practice Management Committee for, letting us participate in this amazing idea, which is essentially to help you guys have you ask questions and go through, what really for Alex and I, we talk about a lot. We may use a timer during this process because if not, Alex and I can get carried away. We've spoken before with each other. We have a lot of fun doing this. And so, but my name is Patrick Wright. Welcome. I'm a family law attorney, board certified in family law and child welfare. I am an actual practicing lawyer. I just finished mediation about an hour ago on a case. But I am also on the Family Law Council for the State Bar of Texas, the State Bar of Texas Law Practice Management Committee, co-chairing the Emerging Trends Subcommittee, and presently, right now, really nothing going on. I am the one of the co-chairs for the 2026 ABA Tech Show, which is going to be in Chicago coming up in the first part of 2026. And so super happy to be here. I'll turn it over to you, Alex.
Yeah, and I'm Alex Shahrestani. I'm a practicing attorney based in Austin, Texas. I also have a background in software development, which I've never really stopped. I got the background so I could be the tech attorney, but I've loved it so much that I've been programming ever since. So I founded the Journal of Law and Technology at University of Texas School of Law. I've served on a number of sections and committees, including the Law Practice Management one and the inaugural version of the Emerging Technology Committee. I also helped South by Southwest run their CLE program. And similar to Patrick, I just love AI stuff. If you've met me before, I probably haven't shut up about it. So we're gonna try and answer as many questions as possible within those 5-minute formats. We're gonna do a number of pre-submitted questions. We're gonna do a short demo, and we're gonna do some live questions as well before we wrap up. So hopefully we'll be able to get to the bulk of people's burning questions by the end. But if we are not able to, feel free to reach out to us after the fact. Again, we're going to be doing more of these, and we'll probably do something fun, like perhaps we'll have you tweet. I don't know. That'll be something the bar will figure out, but maybe we'll have the most popular follow-up questions turn into some follow-on content from another series that's coming out with the Law Practice Management Committee shortly. So,
Um,
Trish, would you like to introduce yourself?
sure. I'm Trish McAllister. I'm the staff attorney for the Law Practice Management Department, and I'm here just going to be moderating these two fabulous panelists we've got here that are going to answer all your questions. So, we just started this Ask a Human Q&A session because sessions really to give folks an opportunity to ask any question they want at all about AI because we know there's so many questions out there and people just don't really have enough opportunity to ask anything they want. So literally, this is just an opportunity for you guys to do that. We received, and hopefully kind of a fireside chat, welcoming a sort of atmosphere. And we received a ton of questions from you guys. So we're really excited about that, over 100 of them. So we're going to start by answering some of the questions that you guys have submitted. Then, like Alex said, we're going to do a short demo. He's going to do a short demo on ChatGPT because there are obviously people who have never used it before, and we just want to kind of give people a lay of the land. Then we'll resume getting to your questions. And about halfway through, we're going to mix it up a little bit, and we're going to ask you guys to raise your hands, and we will have you ask live questions. And that does involve, promoting you to be a panelist, so you'll be up here on the screen. So if you don't want to be on video, don't raise your hand. But we are going to try to get to as many questions as possible. So I'm going to stop talking. We're going to limit the answers to these questions to 5 minutes apiece. And, if I'm turning my head to the side. I'm not giving you side face. I'm just kind of looking at your questions that you submitted. All right. Okay, so let's get started. This was my personal favorite. Mainly, I don't want to get in trouble.
It's an excellent question.
Yeah, go ahead,
Your
Alex.
favorite.
Yeah, okay. So I think the root of this problem comes from and again, we're speaking on our own behalf. This is not on behalf of the bar or any sort of committee. This is our personal knowledge coming to bear on the topic.
What
I think
Alex
a lot of
said.
yeah, and I think a lot of the problem comes from how guidance has been issued around the topic of AI. A lot of the ethics opinions don't actually give you instructions on what you can do. It's more saying, hey, don't violate the ethical rules, which I think everybody is already aware of. But then there's this sort of like black box of knowledge of like, what can I do with AI? What can't I do with AI? And I think at root, where we get to is basically that all the standard ethical rules are in place. Where people get tripped up is they start to think of AI as a different thing than a traditional tech tool. So you might be using Westlaw or Lexis, and you don't have that same question of how do I use this without getting in trouble. I think starting to frame it in how you view your other tech tools will be helpful. There are some additional considerations, but those additional considerations are not very instructive on the use of AI in general. And then I'm sure Patrick can wax poetic on this, but how people have used it and got in trouble with the courts largely comes down to not reviewing work product before submitting it to the court. So there's going to be the issue of verifying your outputs. Then there's also the issue of making sure you're not doing anything that's messing with client confidentiality. And again, if you sort of look through the lens of traditional tech tools, you're more or less in the right ballpark of using these tools safely. So Patrick, if you wanted to take it
Oh
off
yeah,
from
yeah. So let me just say this. There's two things you have to really understand. And sometimes when I'm talking about AI, I like to use timeframes because like Alex and I can tell you, if we had time on this program, this week has been a monster week in news that has come out about AI and AI related products. But for this question, what you need to know is the State Bar of Texas Ethics Committee, Professional Ethics Committee for the State Bar has issued an ethics opinion at 7:05. That was in February of 2025. And so if you're looking for the question of what ethical issues are raised under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct, that is a fabulous place to start. It's Ethics Opinion 7:05. And in addition to that, I will say that American Bar Association Formal Opinion 512, it's a little bit more comprehensive. Understand we know that the ABA is providing guidance, not law, but they sort of provide a lot of description in their discussions about what is maybe violation of discipline rules and what not. But I would start at 7:05. I would start with 512 in order to make sure you're not getting in trouble. And that's going to germinate a lot of questions or ideas for you. Now, what Alex said, which if you look at the reason why people are getting in trouble, there is a website, Damon Charlatan, who has created an AI hallucination case database. Now, I checked it right before we came on here, and we're up to 569 cases. I say this and people get scared. 569 cases. And I started looking at what they were and what the reasons were, and we've got these things like Alex and I can talk to you about, but fabricated case law, fabricated quotes, misrepresenting the quotes. Alex and I were talking about this before. I'm like, do people actually read what they submit to courts anymore? I don't know. But what's also important to note, and it's created some of the problem that we are all dealing with and courts are dealing with, is if you look at the reported parties that are using these cases of the 569 cases, and those are identified so far. There may be more on a local level that haven't been identified. I know I personally have dealt with cases that have fabricated information in it, and Alex may have as well. But one of the things which is interesting is if you look at Damon's survey or case information, it references out the jurisdiction. You see it's everywhere. But what's also important is it talks about the party using AI. And what's very apparent is a lot of those people are pro se litigants that are doing it. So we don't necessarily need to harp on lawyers who may be using this, but they may be just normal people who are submitting stuff to the court. And I'll pass it back to Alex.
Yeah, there's one last thing before we run out of time and perhaps move on to the next question is outside of the rules of ethics, there's the actual law that requires that you disclose the use of AI to people. And that's been pushing out across various jurisdictions, including Texas. So if you're going to use AI, make sure you're letting your clients know that you're using AI beforehand. I think you're probably using it, even if you don't think you are, but you still need to tell them.
Okay, perfect. Right on time, guys. Love that. Um, let's see. The next one is, can a lawyer continue to practice without AI?
So
Would
I
you like
have
to
the
start?
Yeah, I have the answer to this. And I will tell you that if you look at Texas Ethics Opinion 705, um, the opinion itself says Rule 1.01. And so Rule 1.01 is that a lawyer shall not accept or continue employment in a legal matter which the lawyer knows or should know is beyond the lawyer's competence. And all of the tech folks know that, and we always bring up in every speech the rule that requires technical competency now. We just harp on everyone about that ad nauseum. But if you look in the opinion, it says Rule 1.01 almost certainly does not require the use of generative AI for any particular purpose in the practice of law. So the answer to that question is you can absolutely practice and not do this. Now, Alex and I are going to try to convince you that you should today, but you don't have to use it. Alex, your thoughts?
Yeah, so that's probably true for now and for the near future. But this opinion is stuck in time and we are not. And I think as things are moving forward, we're going to see AI actually get a lot more robust. So I was doing a practice demo before this to try and, prepare, and it didn't break as badly as it normally does when I gave a poor prompt. They are actually improving the way that prompts are handled in order to get better results. So that's like one piece of it is like this is like a fast moving train still. We don't know when the end of that train ride is coming or when things are going to slow down, but for now it's still going very fast. So I would anticipate that if it moves at the same clip within the next few years, you will have to use AI. The other thing that I think needs to be broken out here is that you probably already are using AI to some extent. You're not using generative AI. So if you do a Google search, you're probably using AI. Most research database tools are using some form of AI to help return the results to you in the first place. Pretty much any software you're using has some level of AI if it's like an enterprise level tool, which is what most of us are using. So that's another thing to sort of consider. And then I know Patrick has a very famous quote he would like to share about whether a lawyer can use AI or not. So, Patrick, I don't want to botch the quote. You go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm about ready to botch the quote, but essentially the quote is that it's not AI that kills the lawyer. It's the lawyer that's using AI that's going to kill the lawyer who's not using it. And there, I just butchered it a little bit, but that's for our friend Mark Unger because he really likes that quote. But I'm just saying that yeah. So it's something that's going to, and I agree with Alex. It is going to be technical competency, and I don't think the answer is I'm going to retire. And so because I think it's coming quicker than most of us maybe want or think it will. In fact, Alex will argue that it's already here, and I'll argue that it's already here too. And so, but I think it's something that we all should know. And I honestly, I think it's something that may be fearful because I talk to a lot of lawyers, and I get a lot of lawyers who are sort of afraid and they don't want to get in trouble, and we don't want you to get in trouble. But I think that you can use it daily, and we're going to show you about using it daily so you can not get in trouble, and you'll really, if you haven't already, appreciate the value of it.
Yeah, and there's like some other notes here on the question of can you continue to practice without AI that are not necessarily directives from the bar. So clients are obviously already coming in with AI generated documents and they'll come back with comments and questions that have been AI generated to pitch to you or to critique you. And as annoying as it can feel and actually be in some cases, it is not far off where we're going to see clients coming in with good work products and they're going to be showing you that they did this with AI, and they're going to wonder why you're pushing back against it so hard. There are a number of cases out there of people who have successfully defended like a case against themselves using AI, and if the alternative is no representation, they're going to continue to use it. So at a certain point, we're going to cross a threshold into where like bare minimum competence from the AI might actually be present in the documents that clients are bringing to us, and that's going to be hard to argue with. I think we
Okay.
can go to the next one.
Yeah, sorry about that timer, guys. So the
It's
next
all right.
one is, do I really need a law-specific AI or is ChatGPT acceptable to start?
What do you think, Alex?
I'll kick this one off. Yeah. So I think ChatGPT is acceptable to start. So the major players are going to be more than enough. So there's ChatGPT, Claude by Anthropic, Gemini by Google, and Llama by Meta. There's another one or two that are out there that are totally fine, but those are like the major players in the market. And law-specific AI tools are almost in every case that I have seen under the hood, at least in every case that I've seen under the hood, it is ChatGPT, it is Claude, it is one of those tools underneath the surface, and they're adding their own little magic sauce to it. So what it probably is for like a Lexus or a Westlaw is they're using, in fact, I know they're using, I believe it's now I'm not sure, but I did look this up at one point. They use either Anthropic or they use ChatGPT under the hood, but then what they do is they have the AI interact with their own software. So they have the AI do the research through their own software and then provide the answer based on the retrieved documents that they found. And so you're not really going to find some magical model living within some AI tech tool. Um, and I think there's like another piece here that is important to note. I actually think it's better to go with one of these major players. So it is like there is a benefit to plugging in your own software tools and like other data into the AI to make sure you're getting a good response. But these tools are now at a place where you can do that. You don't need to actually go pay somebody to put this together for you. You can click a button to add like your Drive files or your OneDrive files or whatever, upload a file, whatever you want it to be. And you can limit the universe of information the AI pulls its answers from to stuff that you trust. So you can already sort of compete. And then there's this additional problem of, again, the AI is moving so fast and still moving so fast that there's a good chance that any legal specific AI product you buy is gonna be sort of stuck in place, right? Like they develop a product and then their whole development team is gonna be stuck around making sure that anything that's broken works. And they're not going to be keeping up with the latest and greatest features while those major providers are, and you can just continue to bring your own data into it to work with those AIs.
Yeah, and I would just add on there that I'm a big proponent and have been for using OpenAI's product. I would say that there as you know, I know Microsoft's having their big conference right now, and some of y'all may be using Copilot. I don't know if you use Copilot at all, Alex, but I know that there are some features that they have just unveiled literally in the last day. So if you're using Copilot, you may want to go check out that information. But predominantly, I have chosen to focus on OpenAI just because I think they're the big horse in the race, and that's where if you look at the users across the globe it is overwhelmingly OpenAI's products that people are using. And I agree with Alex as far as it's the foundation on which a lot of things are built. And so, but you could like run yourself ragged by looking at all the products and everything that is the unleashed. And so you don't have to do that. You can just pick one thing and learn it, and you'll be surprised. I was looking at Claude the other day, and I was like, "Wow, this interface looks very familiar to the OpenAI because I hadn't looked at it in a while." The last thing I'll say in here is that if we demo things or we talk about things, a lot of these interfaces are changing quite often. And so one of the tips is to go back and look at whatever you're using because we may tell you, and we're going to tell you how to turn your training data off. I noticed when I was looking at that feature that the form of that, the interface has changed multiple times over the years. And in fact, I was looking at an article the other day in the Wall Street Journal, and they had put a graphic up there on it, and it had even changed in 2 weeks. So just know that it's okay if it changes. It may not look exactly like Alex shows you here in a minute, but that's okay. The point is what you're doing with the platform and how you're keeping safe.
Which is
Yeah.
perfect
Go
kind of
ahead.
segue into, Alex, do you want to do that demo so that we can show
Sure.
people how to? I think a lot of the concerns or some of the questions that we had were about, how do you use it and not be training, like you were saying, Patrick, how do you make sure you're not training the AI model with your data, and how do you keep things as private as you can.
Okay, can you all see my ChatGPT screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this isn't going to be super in depth. It's just going to be a little intro because I know this question comes up a lot, and just I'm going to show it to you right now. So, in your ChatGPT interface, I have a paid account. It's a Teams account, so it's going to look very minorly different from like a traditional paid account, but it's more or less the same. So on the bottom left-hand corner, you're going to have like a little profile icon. You're going to click on that and go to settings. And here you're going to see data controls. Click on that, and you're going to see improve the model for everyone. And you're going to want to make sure that that's toggled to off. For the business mode, it automatically disables training, but it is a toggle that you can choose within the paid version, and I believe even within the free version. Patrick, have you checked that lately?
I haven't checked the free version because I have the paid version, but
Yeah.
I can toggle mine off and it's always off. So,
Yeah, yeah. So it retains that setting. If you don't find the setting in a free version of ChatGPT, that means it's improving the model with your content.
hey, can I
Um,
jump in real quick while you're on this page and ask you a
yes,
question, Alex?
sure.
I mean, you've just told people basically how not to have all their case information be used to train the model that leaks out there into the internet, which is one of the main things and the takeaways from this program today is what Alex has shown you right here. Right. So
Yeah.
super, super important word. Don't go anywhere because we're going to tell you more. But that's worth the price of being here right now, which is that little button right there to turn that off. Now, the other question I have is if you look to the left, you see where it says personalization. Have you
Mhm.
used that personalization, Alex?
Yes, and in fact, that was part of the problem with the first time I ran through the demo. So I think I can click on it and show you.
Okay.
So this is where you can put in custom instructions. And basically, what you're doing, it's like you're including a prompt template in every instruction you send to ChatGPT. And so instead of telling the AI exactly how you want it to answer every time, you give it a set of instructions that it carries with it among various sessions. So this is one that I use a lot. I wish I could make it bigger. I can't. But this is one that I highly recommend for anyone who's new to using ChatGPT or any of the other tools. Um, so the custom instruction I use is you break down each question or task into component sub-questions or tasks, if applicable. Answer each individual sub-question or complete each individual subtask. You synthesize your answers and subtasks into a complete response. There's some other instructions here, but that's the important one. I gave it a little bit of context about myself. Um, so basically, you're able to give it um, a stance, like you give it a personality as it responds to you.
Hey,
Now, the
Alex,
reason
can
I
you go back to that screen real quick? I want to ask you a
yes,
question about it.
yes,
So on the personalization, because I think it's interesting. So where it says about you, which is what you're referring, if you could use the slide and slide down a little bit more so we can see your occupation. So you've actually got in there, I'm a lawyer, I'm a programmer. Here's a little bit about me. So
hmm
and so how important do you think it is for the regular user to have all that information in there?
I think it's probably important for someone who's using it for a specialized purpose, like an attorney. So if you're using it for personal reasons, you might not care, or if you only sometimes use it for professional reasons. But giving it the context will change the quality of the answers it returns to you. So if it doesn't know you're a lawyer, it's going to assume you're some random person on the street asking a question about the law, and the answer is going to look very different than if it knows it's talking to an attorney.
Now, and below that it says memory. What is that? I think that's kind of cool.
So memory, I actually turned this off.
Okay.
So memory is an automated thing that I turn it off not for confidentiality reasons. I turn it off for other reasons. It's an automatic thing where you interact with the AI and it learns something about you, something important. So perhaps it returns a result and about, I don't know, the nearest ice cream shop to you, assuming you're in Houston. And then I say, no, 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 I live in Austin. It might save that fact to memory, so that way it knows that okay, they probably care more about answers related to Austin than elsewhere. but the memory is much more sophisticated than just a location piece of information. So I remember when the memory first it came out and it was turned on by default. And I was like brainstorming gifts for my wife. And I was just sort of like thinking through things. And it said, "Oh, you know what Maggie would love?" And I was like, I didn't say her name was Maggie. And it turned out that it came from some other conversation. And so this memory, you're able to go in, you're able to delete these memories and sort of curate them a little bit. I just turn it off and I instead do other things to manage that context. But if you're new to it, it might be a useful little bump to your experience to have the memory turned on.
That's cool. Now, let me ask you this too. If I go all the way up to the right hand top of the box and there's that little a squiggly line circle up there. What is that?
That's like an incognito chat. Like
Okay.
it doesn't save it to your account's history. So I think you can also set these to be included in your incognito chat somewhere or somehow. I don't really use it. I think the idea is if you're asking a question that's out of keeping with what you normally do. So for example, if you have your memory turned on and it's saving pieces of information about you, and then perhaps you have a friend who's like, "Oh, I need to look something up real quick." You might turn on a temporary chat so that way it doesn't mess with your memory and, start muddying the waters.
Can you show them, Alex, the different sort of models? I know they've up in the left
Yes.
top corner it says 5.1.
Yes. So 5.1 is the latest version. There's there's info to know about like the various models, but I'm just going to stick to the high level. So auto is where basically if you ask a complicated question, it takes more time to give you a complicated answer. That's sort of like a thinking level. Instant is where if it's a simple question, it'll just answer immediately. So instead of taking several moments to figure out the answer, it'll just answer based on its pre-trained data. There's legacy models available. GPT-4o was the immediate predecessor, and it's still sort of a robust use case for a lot of tech tools. So if you're using an AI specific or a legal specific AI, there's a good chance they're using a 4o model. More or less, you can just leave it on auto. You don't really need to think about it too much. If you get frustrated by the amount of time it takes and you just need a simple answer, not only can you change it to instant, but they've added a new feature where you can click just answer now. So if it's like stopping to think, you can have it skip ahead. So let's talk about prompting a little because I know that
Hey,
was
hey,
like
Alex, let
something.
me drop one
Yeah,
thing in real quick before you go to
yeah.
prompting. So, if some of y'all have used this product and you've been using what's been referred to as deep research, what Alex was just showing you about the different modes of thinking, those have all been merged. So, you're not going to be able to find that little deep research tab anymore. And essentially, they've been merged into the thinking mode. And so, it's going to auto think for you by the question, just so you know. But that was what by their design, what they did under 5.1 with those modes. So if you have it on
Kind
auto,
of.
yeah, if you have it on auto, it's going to determine by itself what it thinks the importance of your question is. Go ahead, Alex.
Kind of. I think Patrick misspoke. So there is a deep research, which is a more robust thinking mode, but they did used to have the models broken out. So it used to be 4.0 and then there was 4.0 mini, but then there was also the O models, which are like thinking models, which I think Patrick was referring to.
Yeah, I
So
was
there's
just saying it's not going to show up unless you look for the legacy models. It's going to show up in thinking.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so about prompting. So that the reason I gave you that set of custom instructions is because that is a good practice for how you talk to the AI. Instead of asking a big question that has a lot of assumptions baked in, which is what we do by nature, you need to break it out into what the subparts are. And if there is an assumption included in why you're asking a question, you might have to actually provide it to the AI. So rather than assume the AI can understand everything about where you're coming from, you need to treat it a little bit like you're walking a really smart middle schooler through the thought process, right? Like maybe it's a flow chart of how you think through a legal problem. Think about it that way when you're prompting. So the AI can actually come back with way better answers than like a middle schooler can. But um, in terms of making sure it stays on task, you need those discrete, bite-sized questions. So I don't want to go into a whole big demo because it could take several minutes. But something I might do is mimic the kind of output that you're expecting to see. So, say you're trying to do a search for case law and statutes that might be relevant to your case. If you just say something like, what laws apply to my case, it's going to give you a really general, generic answer because that was a really general, generic question. Now, those custom prompts might change it a little bit, but let's put that to the side for now. What you could do instead is ask the question as if you're writing something to another attorney. So you might say something like, do you know which sections of the business and Commerce Code in Texas govern series LLCs? But by putting in, it's we're so far removed from law school that thinking of this as a term of art is almost like silly, but it is a term of art, right? Like you're talking about the sections of the code. And when you do something like that, you're going to get a much more targeted answer that it's going to understand the intent. And the reason this is important is because the way AI works is pattern matching. It is not actually pulling straight up information. Instead, it pulls a bunch of resources that it thinks might match your search, and then it generates a pattern out of that to get the result. So what you're doing with this section is you're basically narrowing the set of results it returns to something that looks like a legal resource, right? So if you ask a generic question, it's going to pull a bunch of patterns out from the data that look generic. Think of all, so if you type this into Google right now, you might get something like an ad for a personal injury lawyer. You might also get a Wikipedia article, or you could get something from what are they called? That oh man, I'm forgetting that legal Zoom. Maybe you'll pull a legal Zoom result, which is not what you want. But if you give it the foundational information of like, wait, no, I want terms of art, I want something written by lawyers for lawyers, I want the actual codes. If you think in terms of what that answer might look like and provide that within your prompt, you're just going to get better results. The
Yeah,
other
and I'll
thing,
just let me throw this in there too while
one
you have this up
one
there.
last thing you can do is you can ask it to actually, so you can click on these links, but you can ask it to do research in particular websites. Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, what I was going to say is that even though that this is given citations in there, I would just say we haven't talked a little bit about hallucinations yet, but it still is going to hallucinate. So I know there was a study yesterday that found that when they were doing mental health literature reviews, that ChatGPT, what we're looking at here, was fabricating roughly 1 in 5 academic citations. And so you still need to go in and verify the citations because there are some in doing research that are showing that 56% of citations are either fake or contain errors. So just be very cautious and go check your sources.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a little bit of a function of letting it go far afield rather than staying tailored and on target with a particular question. Trish?
Um, one of that I think we can probably stop the demo at this point and get to some of the questions that kind of arise out that lead to this. Because one of the questions that folks had is whether you do need a paid or free account and why, if you have a preference for one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth the money. It's very cheap. It's like 20 bucks a month for any of the major players. And you get access to the latest models, higher limits. You're able to do fancier things with it. But if you're like a brand new person to AI, don't just dive in. I think the free version is totally fine for kicking off and just getting started with getting familiar with AI. Patrick, I think you have some thoughts.
Yeah, my thought is it's one thing if you're just using it to get started. And there is the value in just using the product. I have told people for years that you don't necessarily have to do legal work to learn how to use it. You can, do recipes. If you like cooking, you can use trip planning if you want to go somewhere. I just went on a trip and I outlined the whole itinerary using AI to research and so you can use other things to familiarize yourself with the product. I agree with Alex. I have the paid subscription version. I've got the higher up, I think it's the pro versus the regular, what, $20 a month, whatever it is now. And I have found that you have better products. I think that that in and of itself is worth the value of the money to it. And the other thing is people have asked me this over the years about free versus paid. I've always said paid. I think there is some level of it's like, do you pay for your Office 365 or your Microsoft accounts? Do you pay for your Westlaw subscription? I think there's some value in saying this is my paid platform and it's not just a free version that I'm using. So it's like a subscription model. And so I think it's better for security and functionality, new tools coming out. I think it's much better to have a paid subscription, even at the lower $20 rate. I think it's well worth the money.
Oh yeah, I think the $20 is more than enough for
Yeah,
most people, and then you'll know when you're at a point where you're like, I want more, right? Like
right.
it's not like it'll be a secret to you. And I think that's probably true across like free versions as well. Now, I will say if you're using free, I might stay away from putting like client information in there unless you can confirm that they're not actually using your data. And that's something that probably should be checked. But yeah, apart from that, like I agree with Patrick. You can use it for all kinds of use cases. Oh, one thing I meant to show in the demo. So if it requires a paid version, but you can set a prompt for a recurring task. So you might say like, so perhaps like you have a job hunt, right? Like maybe you're looking to move positions and you can tell ChatGPT, I want you to look for positions in this field, in these locations for me every day at 9 a.m. And every day at 9 a.m. You'll get a notification with the search results and it'll even tell you if it's shown you results before. It'll say there weren't any new results or there's only this one new one or whatever. It's really useful for lots of little edge cases.
Yeah, I did, Alex, on my trip. I had it do the I did the trip planning for it, and then I had it send me a countdown. Is your passport up to date? Have you checked this? I mean, I'm like getting emails just like, oh yeah, I've done that. Oh, do you have trip insurance? I mean, it was like sending
hmm
me all these reminders, so it was kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, the way I use it for the firm is I run the firm and so I wear lots of hats. And so every day it assumes I'm wearing a different hat and it'll check in with me on progress on various tasks. And so I treat it like a little live journal. And then every week it'll come back and check in on the progress and the next steps. And it's like a way to spur those various projects along.
Um, all right. I think one of the questions that people, some of the topics that people have, we'll do one more kind of a couple more questions, and then we'll take some live questions. But one of the questions that folks have, of course, is about the privacy, confidentiality, security area. So, what privacy considerations do we need to have beyond ensuring that the models cannot train on the data we feed it?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this. Number one, training data. Number two, your history in there is a concern. Number three is what I always tell everybody is I wouldn't put client data in there. I mean, like if you're there are some models out there, and Alex and I have talked about all these people that tell you their grades of security, for HIPAA compliance and for medical documents. If we've got PI lawyers listening or whatever, and there's some products out there that'll tell you, as Alex and I have talked about, that there are all these compliance and you can use them. Just a very basic version. I've talked to family lawyers about this, which is, where they'll go in and use something facts, but not put a client's name. Maybe they'll put mother, maybe they'll put father, maybe they don't put the kids' names in there. And then they use that data to generate an email, a letter, or whatever. But what I also caution everybody about is make sure that what device you're using it on, because we may not just be using it on our desktop. That the ChatGPT phone version app is pretty darn good, and what you have to understand is two-factor authentication is always good, and it's not necessarily that your data gets hacked. There have been cases where people's accounts have been hacked. I haven't seen any of them in the States. There was one in India where that was hacked, and I think they got like 150,000 accounts. And if you have all that information in your history, then it's all going to be available if it's hacked. So I would say there's other things just besides your data being trained upon. Alex, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think if you remove data being trained upon to improve a model, you're in the same boat as you are with any other tech tool. And there's a lot of discussion about whether your data is being leaked when you're using an AI tool. But again, like there's nothing special about AI where the tech tool has some special, extra leakage, right? Like really your data is in the same situation as it is with other tools. And the issue is like you're able to say it's SOC 2 compliant, you're able to say all kinds of things which are true, but these security stances don't mean that nobody is ever looking at your data and it's not being used for anything. In fact, like whenever I review major legal tech tool providers' terms of service and privacy policies, I have yet to find one that makes me think that they're doing anything special with the data to protect it. And there's like practical reasons for it, right? Like it's not purely nefarious. It's really just these providers, in order to provide you the service, need to be able to see the data on the back end to fix it when things go wrong or to develop new services, right? Like, oh, people are often trying to do X and the outcome is not proper. So we need to fix that, right? Like these are valid reasons. But again, your client's data is in there and probably visible to at least one human under the right circumstances. And our protections in these situations are purely based on contract. The privacy policy is an agreement the company makes with you about what they're doing with the data, and then reputation of their ability to follow through and enforce, right? So there's like multiple pieces to that where one is like, do you think they're going to lie and just steal your data? Like that is a bad sign. And then two, like, do they have the resources necessary to actually provide the protections of your data, not only from external threats, but internal threats. And so it's like, again, like you would have to be a security researcher to go and like verify all of this. So it all comes back to the contract. And then there's like one final piece that I think is important here. If you're using a tool that is not one of the main AI provider tools, so some layer on top of it, some legal tech version of an AI tool, there are multiple service providers that are touching your data, and you're going to need to be cautious that whatever the privacy policy is of your direct provider is the whole story. You need to make sure that wherever else the data is going is similarly secure. So perhaps you have a legal. I'm not thinking of a particular provider here, but perhaps you have a provider that assures you the model is not training on your data. We treat your data totally privately, but then you go and you look at their privacy policy, and perhaps they sell it for marketing purposes, which is a different question than whether they're training it on the data. And then there's the downstream service provider as well. You have to ask that same question there. So it's the same considerations with every other tech tool, but I think a lot of these considerations are currently overlooked.
Let me just throw this in real quick in 16 seconds. So there, like Alex was saying on products, like this is one right here. This is the Plod if you use it to record phone calls, right? Alex probably has one too, maybe. And so, but I mean, like when I got it and started using it, I did what Alex was saying. I went and downloaded and looked and see what their terms and their privacy policy was. I mean, they just updated, for those of y'all that use this product, they just updated their privacy policy. I want to say like last night or this morning with a big announcement on, if you look at everything that Alex just said, there's like a chart that has like literally Alex could be reading it on everything that they just announced that they were doing. But if you're using these products, understand, like Alex is saying, is that you need to be checking those two with what they're doing with your data.
Okay. We'll take one more question. I'm mindful of the time. We're about 15 minutes out. So I do think that we'll take this one question and then we'll switch to taking like one or two people as a live question. So
Okay.
here's a question that came in. Um, with the requirement to disclose you are using AI, would it be good enough to put in your letter of retainer that you may use it, or must it be separately disclosed each time you use it? And what about when used to assist in drafting or researching for a pleading? Must it be disclosed in the pleading?
Wow.
Excellent question. Yeah. So, in terms of, I can answer the client facing one. I don't litigate very often, but for the client facing thing, the retainer agreement is enough. That is the consensus that I've seen. But it must be agreed to and explicit. As far as the pleading, I know there are various court rules that require some form of cover letter. to disclosing whether you used AI and if so, whether you vetted the information. But I don't believe there's like a blanket need to include that disclosure in the pleading itself every time. But Patrick would know more about that.
Okay, so this is where Alex and I may diverge again, maybe a little bit. So, and understand that 512, the ABA opinion. So, does someone must know me who this must be a setup question. So who did this? Because that was my original go-to. Was I was like, oh, I can just put it in my fee agreement. But if you look at 512, it says that that may not be enough. All right. And it says that you have to have a discussion with your client about that. And the mere putting it in your fee agreement and disclosing it is not, may not be enough disclosure. And so there's a section in the 512 opinion that discusses that. So I'll just point you to that to look at it because it's going to give examples. As far as the actual disclosure, I would say there are Judge Roy Ferguson. If he's listening, hello. But he was one of the first people who did an AI use policy, both local rules and a certificate with use in his court. There are other courts around the state that have adopted those policies. Williamson County is one I know for sure. Denton County just did theirs recently, as far as local rules or requirement, and then also a certificate that has to be filed. And so that certificate, like I've been filing it and attaching it to everything we've been filing, much like a standing order that you would file in a case that there is a requirement that it be disclosed. One of the issues that constantly comes up on this topic is whether I have to, it's a single use disclosure or if it is a every time I use it disclosure. And for most of the counties that I've seen, it's a one-time disclosure. Although I will say in Denton, I've seen it where you have to attach it to the documents that you're filing with court, because I myself have had some that have been rejected because we did not put it on there. And so I would just say check your court, know your local locality, your county that you're in, because the rules may vary.
Okay. All right. So right now, we'll just take we'll see if anybody's interested in doing a live question. So what that entails is that I will, if you'll raise your hand if you want to be promoted to a panelist, so your video will be on and ask them a question. Just raise your hand, and then I'll choose a few of you, and I'll do them one at a time. So I'll promote you to a panelist. You'll ask the question, they'll answer, and then I'll move you back down to attendee. We'll just get to as many as we can. Is anybody interested in doing that? I'm trying to see. There's a lot of you. If not, I can simply continue to go forward with the questions that we've received.
It's okay to have questions. I ask Alex questions all the time.
Yeah,
So
I like, let me just tell you, these guys just think, oh my gosh, I don't know anything because I'm never know anything. But well, oh wait, somebody just raised their hand, but then I think they changed their mind. Okay,
It's
Charles.
okay to have questions.
All right, Charles, I'm gonna promote you. Okay, so here you come. You're gonna get a little screen that says accept on the being promoted to panelist. So you need to click on that, and then you'll be here. There you go. If you could unmute, then you can ask your question.
Okay.
hey
Perfect.
Charles,
Hey,
welcome.
Hello,
thanks.
hello.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I've really enjoyed what you guys are doing here, and you may have already answered my question. Um, I have a law firm that I've had for a long time, and I do a lot of securities work.
Hmm.
And I have a great history of deal volume that I'm saying to myself, I'd like to be able to mine it in future transactions and the like, and get the best prior art quickly. So, is there an interface with AI that would allow me to do that? In essence, I think I can see Alex shaking his head yes. And because I just look at this as I have all this valuable stuff. I'm of course sensitive about not allowing it to go to be public and breach any kind of confidentiality. But I just think that there's got to be a way that I can just stay within my own universe, if you will, and mind what I've done in the past.
Heck yes. I think you're coming from the right angle. So a lot of people come into the question of AI and say, what can I do with AI? But coming in with a specific need to an AI question, I think is often going to yield a yes answer. You can make that happen. There's a number of ways to do this. The most straightforward way to start playing around with it, and I'll be honest, you're probably not going to get the best results, but it will get you started. Just a paid ChatGPT account. You can actually upload a series of files and have it review them. Patrick and I will differ in our opinion about whether that's confidential enough. I think it is. Patrick might disagree with me there, but there are alternatives. So you are able to, it's called self-hosting or on-premises. It's kind of like having a local server. You've probably had one in your office before. You
Right.
can kind of do that with various AI systems. So you can have a small model that is interacting with the data as well as a small database of that data in a format that the AI can interact with. So there are various layers with which you can remove your data from the cloud and address some of those concerns. I would be of the opinion that doing it in the cloud is okay.
Hey,
But
hey,
then you could get,
Alex, let me
yeah,
let me riff on Charles's question real quick because I think
yep.
it's one that I too have thought of. With if you've been practicing for any length of time, you're like, oh, I have all this great information in my data, basically be it like Charles, you're saying, or me going, how many divorce decrees have I written over 30 years? Some of them might actually be pretty darn good that I want the language from. And what we haven't talked about, Alex, yet, because you're the coder guy, you're the computer guy, is agents. What type of agents could Charles or even myself make in order to solve his problem? Because it seems like an agent might work. Am I wrong or right?
So yeah, so agents I think are a little bit of a buzzword. So the thinking models are more or less agents.
Mhm.
If you have a connector added, so if you have paid ChatGPT, you're able to click a button and connect to your Microsoft account or your Google account or whatever account and pull the data from there. And in those workflows, you can have an agentic response. And what an agent essentially is it's a string of AIs that are answering a question for you as opposed to one. So you pose your question, it goes to step one, and perhaps it's clarifying what your intent might be or what it needs to do. The next step of the puzzle might be, okay, now I'm going to go pull the information from that resource that I have available to me. Okay, next step, let's review these documents. Okay, these ones seem like good ones. Now let's ask specific questions. So an agent basically goes, it does this like sort of cascading task management process thing to get at your answer. Um, and if you use paid ChatGPT, you're almost essentially getting an agentic process to go through this analysis of your past documents. Now, there's various things that you need to know. So again, you got to think in terms of pattern matching. That's how the AI thinks. So basically, what you want to do is get your data in as standardized of a format as possible. So perhaps you have a lot of spreadsheets. That would be ideal, I would say, because then you have very organized, clear categories of what's going on, and that's something an AI can understand a lot more clearly than what's going on with maybe a 50 page divorce filing. Something like that, you're going to need to break it down a little bit to have some meaningful use over a large number of documents. But I would say just start off playing with regular ChatGPT, but then you can get way more granular and way better results. So I I don't want to go too into the weeds because this is probably beyond where you're at and where
Oh
most
yeah.
attendees are at, but
Well, let me
you're
ask you
able
this
to,
question
yeah,
and it's throwing an apple in with a bunch of oranges.
yeah,
In my historic data, all the files are not labeled the same way. I have a structure of labeling things now, which we
hmm
try to do. Is there a way that I could ask the machine to relabel my existing Word
yes.
documents? There is.
Yes. So what I would do is I would tell it to look at the ones that have the proper labeling setup. I would say pull the rules from this labeling requirement, or if you have like instructions for your staff or something,
Right, I
feed that
do.
to the AI and then say, okay, I want you to go through these past documents and rename them for me according to convention.
And it'll do that.
It will do that, yeah. And what I
Oh, I
would
love it.
suggest though, again, break it into bite-sized pieces and check its work as you go. So instead of just having it do it all in one go, you might say, "Hey, give me suggested names for 5 random files and see how it does." If it looks good, then you might say go ahead and pull the trigger on renaming those files.
Okay. Oh, I love it. That's great.
Perfectly
Yeah,
timed.
I could get everything pretty organized. And that's kind of a first step is get it all organized first so that it
Yes.
knows where to go.
Organize,
Yeah.
break everything out into bite-sized pieces. Thanks for
Yeah,
the
love it.
question.
Thank you,
Love
Charles.
it.
Thank you so much, Charles.
Oh,
We're gonna
yeah.
put you back.
Thank
Hang
you.
on one second. I'm gonna move you back to attendee. All right. Let me see. I don't see anybody else with their hands up. So we'll take one more question. We'll do one more question and then, well, we're 5 minutes out, so I don't know if y'all want to do one more question or if you want to just do a
Let's
wrap.
do it.
Okay, we'll do one
Oh
more.
yeah, I'm good.
And this is a question that came up a couple of times on pre-submitted too, so I want to go ahead and ask it. It is simply, how can AI note takers be used
Mm.
safely?
Yeah, I would just say this, which is back to our question about using those note takers. Look at what your terms of services are. Make sure it's not training on your data. I like using Claude. Otter is another one. Even you can use like just regular Zoom. There's lots of note takers now, and there's lots of products out there. And I would just sort of say like, what are you doing with it? Because you can take the notes from the note taker and then you can take those notes and then you can feed it into another AI product. And then
Yeah.
you can like you could take, and this is where Alex is going to be like, wait a minute, what's your thought on privacy? You could take those notes, you could load it into OpenAI and then have it do a whole set of direct exam questions based upon what your client interview was. And I'll just say, and Alex is going to be like, wait a minute, I've done it a bunch of times and it works
Oh, good.
beautifully. It
I don't know
works.
why I thought you were afraid of putting client data in there. Maybe I'm misremembering. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
I
so,
think it's
so, so
fine.
yeah. And I told someone, I won't rat their name out. I told someone this the other day at another speech and they came up to me in court and they're like, oh my God, that was amazing. And I'm like, wait, you've been doing this a long time. Did you actually follow your outline? And they're like, no, but it just gave me a great comfort to have
Mhm.
everything there. Because I always tell everybody, don't just do the questions, have it give you the answers in the formatting, do it a Q&A. And so it's amazing when you're questioning somebody and they're not hitting it and you have the answer there and you know what it is. But I love note takers. I don't know what you think about them, Alex, but I use them
Yeah.
like daily.
I use them all the time too. I guess the only additional thing to pay attention to that might be different from a regular software tool is one, make sure you get consent. So at the beginning of every call, I just check in. I say, hey, is it okay if I have my AI note taker? Most of the time, it's yes. A very rare no, and that's fine. And then the other thing is be aware. So. My suspicion is that this was my client's error, but it is totally possible that it was some form of new cyber attack where I joined a client meeting and there was an AI note taker waiting to join the room. And I said, hey, is that your AI? And the client said no. And so some AI note taker was trying to join our meeting. It was not my AI note taker because mine is like native to the system. I suspect it was just client error because I haven't seen another one since, but it is something to pay attention to. Don't just assume the note taker is actually your clients if you don't recognize it.
Yeah, let me differentiate what I was saying though too, because this is a note taker. But if you send your bot to someone else's meeting, because so I do CPS work, and y'all know if you do CPS work that we have a lot of meetings, and you'll have some people from the DA's office, you'll have CASA on there, you'll have all these various people. People were sending their bots to these meetings and no one was kicking them out or even verifying who they were. And so finally someone was like, probably me, was like, wait, who's recording this meeting? And no one said anything. And so I'm like, we need to kick that out.
Yeah.
I've had some groups that I've been in where no lawyers actually showed up to participate in the meetings, but they all sent their bots. And so there's some groups who have banned people submitting their bots because no one was showing up. But not the
Yeah.
state bar, not the state bar. And so
Yeah.
another organization. But I would just say that yeah, there's a difference between using a little device like this versus just sending your little bot to come to the meeting to record it, which a lot of people do. But
Yeah.
it's what Alex
I've
was saying
never,
is,
I would
yeah,
never think to do that.
yeah, I would be very cautious on like a case where they're kids and we're talking about kids and minors and yeah, I and even on my private consultations, I'll record them, and I do exactly what Alex said. I ask consent for every single one of them. I haven't had a single person who's told me no so far, and I've been doing it now for years. And I will say this, your legal assistants will love you because when they say, I can't read your writing, or that person came in 4 months ago, what did y'all talk about? You just send them the notes because these devices will do a transactional summary and it'll do a task list of all your things that you told this client they were going to do for them. You can just send it to your legal assistant and say, here, this is what we talked about. It works great.
Hot tip, it's
Yeah.
great for improving drafting outcomes. So if you
Right.
use it for drafting, having those notes is really useful. I think the big takeaway I would like to leave people with is if you're not using AI, you should be using it right now. In some capacity, because like that's how you're going to learn. I like to say it's kind of like CGI. CGI, when a new technology comes out in CGI, everything in the movies looks brand new and real. And then a couple years later, you look back at it and you're like, what is this garbage? It's kind of the same with AI. The more usage time you get in with it, the better your eye is at understanding what it can and can't do and how to get those outcomes.
Can I close with something, Trish?
Yes, and then we will let people, we will honor our time. We're already a minute over, so
Yeah, I'll be quick. So first off, a lot of people have this opinion, and Alex probably knows this book, which is, if anyone builds it, everyone dies. I mean, that's one school of thought on what we've been talking about today. And so I would say you don't have to go that hard on it because I don't think we're all going to die, right? I also don't think it's going to take all of our jobs yet. But there's another school of thought, which is Ethan Mollick, who this is a book called Co-Intelligence, and it's about living and working with AI. If you haven't read this book, I highly suggest you go and you get it because it'll talk about how you can work with it in your life, helps you with a working space, a coworker, co-creator, things like that. So it's a good resource to help you sort of wrap your mind around it. And so don't be afraid of it. Just try it. It's already here. It's going to stay. It's only going to get better and it's only going to become more prevalent in everything we do. But man, I thank you guys for listening to this. I love presenting with Alex and thanks for Trish for setting all this up and doing all this stuff. I mean, this is some cool stuff, and we could probably keep going the rest of the afternoon, but y'all have stuff to do. So thanks for joining us.
yeah.
That's why we'll do some more of them. Thanks, Patrick.
We
Thank you, Trish.
will. We will. Thank you guys, everybody, for coming. And I do want to just mention that we are going to honor our promise that we will answer everybody's questions. So, if your question wasn't answered today, we're going to be doing a series of recorded videos that Cassie Burns and some other folks are going to be doing where we will, answer your questions over time, over a period of time. And then, of course, we'll host another one of these Ask a Human sessions at some point, and we'll make sure that everybody who's signed up today will get notification of all of that. And then ultimately, the ultimate goal is we'll have all these questions kind of written up, and I'll probably see if I can get AI to do this for me. Take all these questions and the answers and get them all into a written format, and we'll put them up on our website. So, really am grateful to all of you guys for all your wonderful questions and for attending. And we will be back with you in a few months, probably. Thank you so much, Patrick and Alex. They're so knowledgeable and such great hosts. So great knowledge-based people. Anyway,
Thank
thanks
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.